Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond.
The show where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture.
I'm Amari.
I'm Kharisma. Welcome.
Yeah. We're doing things a little bit differently today because we have a special episode of 28 Days. We're joined by Debbie Africa, Mike Senior Africa, and Mike Junior Africa. Debbie and Mike Africa were released from prison last year after serving 40 years in their association with the MOVE organization. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So we just want to begin at the beginning. There's a lot of people who think they know, and there's a lot of people who don't know. Tell us about the MOVE organization.
Well, the MOVE organization it's not an acronym. It's not
Right.
MOVE. MOVE just stands for move, to be active, to work, to do what's necessary in order to engage in the principle of activity, which means to revolt or revolute. And it all just means the same thing. And that's what our principle stands for. It stands for to move, to work. And that's what we live by. We work hard. Everything we do involves the work.
When did those principles that seem, they make a lot of sense to me. When did all of those principles become a threat to
Right.
the police and
Well, the state is about control, right? So if you don't send your children to school,
Yeah.
say, they want to control that. They want to make sure that you're doing things the way they say you should do things, So if we heard of other social ills, something's happening with animals, if we hear of animals being abused, we would just try to care for the animals. They say we have to report to them about even doing that, if we see we had issues with the zoos that's near our headquarters in West Philadelphia. They had problems with us saying something about the abuse of the animals. So they would come out and, confront us about that, and then, we would confront them about it. And there was several people that, with Black Lives Matter now, Black Lives Matter now. And with Tamir Rice and Eric Gardner, and there's always been issues like that. So we would speak up on that, and they would come out and confront us about that.
So take us back to the beginning, because obviously there are a lot of issues that are still present today, but we've also seen some sort of change in society where certain things like homeschooling is on the rise. There are birth centers all over America which are moving towards a natural birth state, right? A lot of the things that that MOVE was talking about back in the 70s and 80s are starting to become in vogue, right? You can go anywhere and get a vegan meal nowadays, right? Locks are everywhere.
Yeah.
But let's take us back, really set that scene for us. So MOVE began in the 70s.
Well, the above ground chapter MOVE began in the 70s for me, because I
Okay.
joined MOVE in 1974.
All right.
Okay.
It was on the above ground before I came in MOVE, so I'm not really sure of the era. It was the year that was actually born in, but I joined in 1974
And the family was founded by John Africa.
by John Africa.
And so what was going on in Philadelphia? What was going on in society at that time that sort of,
What's the catalyst?
the catalyst for this organization?
Well, one thing, like as Mike mentioned, was the animals, the dogs that we had. That was one issue that really started sparking the police, or should I say, some type of establishment that would start to come at us, because we had over 50 dogs and that we lived in, and it was because people would. We have people that around our neighborhood or that would just throw dogs in the river, and these are dogs that were just left homeless, nobody in the house, tied up in a basement, no food to eat. You could see their ribs coughing up bottle tops because they were so hungry that they didn't, that they were just starving to death. And so these were dogs that we took in to rescue. These weren't things that we went out seeking. But because of our belief, we just weren't allowed. Our belief just would not allow us to just leave a situation like that with any form of life, whether it be an animal, whether it be a baby, whether it be a kid, whether it be a bird, And so we would do whatever we could in our means to try to either rescue that animal or, or try to soothe the child or try to free a bird. And so while gathering all these dogs, sporadically throughout the years, because we would find them tied up in a basement or barking or out in the cold in the winter with, no shelter, this is one thing that actually started a lot of skirmish with the police, because we had all these dogs. So then neighbors would complain because they didn't want to have the dogs barking.
Right.
And then from there, license and inspection wanted to come out and, well, we want to investigate your property. We want to see, what do you have a kennel license? Are you allowed to have this many? Well, no, we're not allowed to have these many dogs, but what are we supposed to do? Because
What's the
our
alternative?
belief is not, our belief is against terminating or, our belief is against any kind of criminal activity that causes any kind of life to be hurt.
40 years ago,
Yeah.
you
a
know, that
different
was a
story.
problem. Everybody thought we were, like nuts just for having natural hair. Composting. Like Mike has a property now where he grows his own food, and he raises his kids are, they look like us.
Yeah.
Well, back then they thought that was abuse, man.
Right.
You're not combing your children's hair.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
It's just so ironic because you mentioned the gardening, the composting, and
Yeah.
Philadelphia is
That's-
known for having
Yeah.
the largest concentration of urban gardens
Yeah.
in America.
now.
Yeah, now exactly
Now,
right.
Now.
now it's a popular
Right.
I
choice.
personally attribute a
When
lot
you-
of that to move
to move,
to
right,
John
exactly,
Africa.
yeah.
I do. I really do.
Well, I'd like to pick back up on that and definitely want to hear what you have to say when we come back from this break on 28 Days and Beyond. Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We're joined today by the Africa family. So before the break, Mike Jr., you had some things to say about sort of the catalyst going back to John Africa.
Yeah, I mean, John Africa started the organization because he saw the abuse of life,
Yeah.
the enslavement of life, the struggle life was going through, and wanting to do something about it. And when it was without categories, right? Like the animals, the water, black people, how black people are being treated, and all life across the board completely. And like Mom said, when you start talking about doing something to protect life, and it threatens the money that the systems industries is making, they will come after you.
Yeah.
Look at how they treating the people in North Dakota with the
Yeah.
pipeline.
Yeah,
They don't. I've never seen the governmental officials, the police, attack any groups or organizations harder than the ones that they attack that are protecting the environment.
That's
So
interesting.
And when you look at the Native Americans and how they treated them, and when you look at the Keystone Pipeline, when you look at how they treated Judy Barry, I mean, that stuff is because those people are protecting life, and these nuclear power plants that they're building to create electricity and all that stuff, that makes a lot of money for them.
Yeah.
And when you start interfering with it by just saying, we need air to breathe,
Yeah.
we need water to drink, and we don't want you to build this thing. They don't care about how you feel, or that this thing has so many parts per million of carcinogens or whatever.
Right.
They don't care about that
Yeah.
kind of stuff because they don't live there. They live in somewhere else, and they don't care about the air quality in that town in some rural area in Pennsylvania, because they care about making money. So John Africa, he's not about money. He's about doing what's right and what's necessary for life. And because of that, he was, MOVE was targeted and labeled with these horrible labels that had people thinking that we were subhuman and to be exterminated without any kind of hesitation from government and from the public. Because once they put out there that MOVE was this radical, dirty, filthy group
Yeah.
who didn't even comb their own hair, people started to believe that was something to be exterminated. They treated us just like how they felt about roaches in somebody's kitchen.
And you're talking about just regular residents, regular citizens.
Them too, yeah,
Wow.
sure. Because they didn't see us as being on their level. We were subhuman to them.
So, kind of dealing with that and this misconception about MOVE and who you guys are and what you represent, was there ever a point that you can kind of go back to where everything kind of came to a head in terms of opposition, I guess, for lack of a better word? Was there a point where you can look back to where it was like all of these interactions with the police and the government and all these people that had this?
Probably May 13th,
Okay.
1985.
Yeah.
Okay.
When the government flew that helicopter over our house and dropped a bomb and killed 11 of our family members. That's when it was like, I mean, you know, as a child growing up in the organization, seeing the police come and being terrified of the sounds of a siren and hearing the helicopters and all of that was terrifying, right? And the people were in prison, always in and out of prison. My
Yeah.
mom and dad being in prison all my life.
Right.
You know, there was
Is it,
always this,
literally all your life.
Literally
all my life. I
life.
was
His
born in
life.
prison. My mom had me secretly in a prison cell at House of Correction.
Wow.
And in fact, I've never been with her since she just came home last year. You know, except outside of prison. With my dad too.
Yeah.
They was both, you know, arrested for the same thing on the same day 40 years ago.
Mm.
But, you know, that feeling back in the 80s when things were that contentious vibration from MOVE and the city and the police, there was always a feeling that things were going to get worse. And they did. On May 13th, the city of
13th.
Philadelphia police came to our house and they flew a helicopter over and dropped a bomb and killed 11 of our family members. And my mom and dad got out of prison just this past last year. And the most devastating thing to me about them being released and the other people still being in prison is that 3 of the people that are in prison now, their children were in the house May 13th, 1985. So, but you talk about things coming to a head.
But-
That's what it was.
But
like.
that was sort of, you know,
After-
that was an isolated incident. It was a long sort of trajectory to get to that point. So that was on Osage Ave, which was really the sort of second
Right.
home.
The second major
I know in
confrontation.
Powelton Village, one of my favorite stories of John Africa was, correct me if I'm incorrect, but there were negotiations and apparently some Quakers had offered some land outside of the city. And negotiators, you know, said, and John Africa said, well, tell the city to move.
Well, the city moved, yeah.
Which to me was so powerful
Yeah.
because it really speaks to a philosophy. Who says when we're walking on the street that concrete belongs to somebody, let alone some, you know, city of Philadelphia or some, you know, American government, right? That you're placing property, land, and resources over human life, right? I know that MOVE is and at that time was not warmly received by everyone. But you know, I've read mixed reviews, and some people said, well, it didn't matter if I agreed with what they were doing; they still had the right to do it, right? Especially if you're talking about centering life, right? And in all that you did. One of the things that we talked about during the break was, you know, now is okay. You go and spend $9 for a salad. Everyone, you know, everyone's into this natural lifestyle. But at that time, this was really seen as a sort of grave sin against society. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, man, let me tell you. When we were kids and I was walking down the street
Yeah.
and my hair was hanging down like this right here.
And this is in
people-
West Philly.
In West Philly,
All right.
where half the people now walk around with hair like this.
Right,
now, man.
exactly.
Man, they was throwing eggs at
Oof.
us, spitting on us, all
Yeah.
kind of. They treated us like we were the nastiest form of life that existed. And that's how it was. The food we ate, you know, eating raw food.
Yeah.
Don't you know better than to eat that? You should cook it. You know, that kind of stuff. Salads, right?
And if that wasn't bad enough when we were back in the 70s when we were coming around, oh my goodness, I mean we were definitely just frowned upon, you know, just for having this type of hair
Whole
style.
family.
Yeah, I mean everybody, and
Especially
we were
women.
also scoffed at for, you know, encouraging our children to eat mostly raw food.
Yeah.
You know, told that we were wrong, we were abusive, that we were bad mothers, you know, that we should, you know, the children should have, you know, certain kind of cooked food and everything, and I mean the thing is not only are what we're saying is valid, but we can prove it because, you know, to give your children food that's nourishing is a good thing. But what they want us to do is give them candy, chocolate,
exactly.
Yep.
donuts,
Yeah, yeah.
everything that
Yeah.
now society is complaining about, the obesity in children.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Michelle
yeah.
Obama right now,
Yep.
you know, the first lady, that was one of her main, that was her charge,
Yeah.
you know, in being the first lady. She wanted to make sure that children lived a healthier life, that they ate, I mean, she had a whole garden and she planted everything, and she wanted to get American children back to health.
What's the name
You
of her
know?
campaign?
What is it?
I think it's Let's Move.
It is.
It is. It is.
That's
Let's
exactly
Move.
what
I
it
can
is.
remember.
That's exactly what it
It
is.
Wow.
But they scoffed at us. They said we were bad. They said we weren't good. They said, you know what I mean? Because, and they even would say, well, can't they have a piece of candy or some potato chips
Right.
sometimes? Well,
Yeah.
you know,
Why?
the children do get into things after a while. I mean, they
Yeah.
start to live their own lives. They
Yeah.
make their own choices. Of course, they make their own choices. But as a parent, you're going to try to do the best thing that you can for your children. That includes feeding them the way you feel is, you know, is healthy for them. That includes nourishing them. That includes nurturing them the best way that you
Educating
can. So,
them.
Yeah.
right. So, you know, but nowadays, it's, you know, like people are starting to, like, I think what it is people are starting to see really that this is there has to be a better way.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the way society is going now is it's just rooted in wrongness.
I think
And
what
it's-
it is the system found a way to exploit another thing.
Yeah, because now
And-
we have the natural hair movement.
Yeah, it's like
It's been
it's
coined
like
the natural hair
Yeah.
movement.
They're
And the
not-
homeschooling too.
Yes,
which
the
is what-
homeschooling.
The natural hair
homeschooling.
movement is a way to sell more products.
It is
right?
It's like-
because
Schools
it's
sell
a $1 billion.
supplementary,
It's a
Sure.
$1 billion
materials. Yeah.
and
yeah.
also a way to exploit other people too, because where are they getting a lot of that hair from? Like, I mean, like not talking about just people growing their own hair, but a
Yeah.
lot of the natural hair they're taking from someone
Right,
else's
right,
head.
right, yeah.
That's very true.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
they what it is John Africa said, he said, when you add something to something, you got something else, right? And they're trying to give their interpretation, their version of what is natural, and they're not giving credit to the actual natural. It's like there's this stuff called purified water.
Right.
What is it then?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
what is it?
Yeah.
What was in this stuff?
Exactly.
Or whatever. It's some kind of potion that they done concocted that is not water anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so these things are simple things that people don't realize, and they also don't understand the danger in it, because if you only have purified water to drink instead of having actual water to drink, you're not going to be as healthy. You're not good. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're still going to be left thirsty. And that same purified water that lives in a Dasani bottle or a Aquafina
Yeah.
bottle,
Mhm.
that stuff is not the same as the way pure water is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, but they're continuously doing these things in all forms of life with the hair and they're making money off of it, slowly trying to like destroy the original form of life and create this reform world way of life.
Yeah.
And that reform, it's like you hear Monsanto.
Yeah.
Monsanto is
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
company
yeah.
a chemical company,
Yeah,
really,
right, right,
but
right.
they got a lot of agricultural farming and all that kind of stuff, and they got this chemical called Roundup, right?
Yeah.
And the Roundup is supposed to kill the weeds,
Yep.
and the weeds that they don't want, so that they can keep growing their corn or whatever. But then the weeds get adapted to the Roundup, so then they grow something and become super weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now they are immune to the Roundup,
Yep.
and they're stronger, bigger, faster growing, and now they're going to create something else.
Wow.
And this is what the system does. And this is what John Africa was talking about. When you add something to something, you got something else. They don't realize the danger in it, but we can't eat those super weeds. They don't nourish us.
Yeah.
The other weeds, the dandelions, the different things like that,
Right,
no
right.
problem.
Yeah.
Right.
But these super weeds that are also, not only can we not eat them because there's something else, they're also chemical filled.
Wow.
Man.
Okay.
There's so
It is so much.
so much to talk
So
about.
much to talk about.
And we want to continue this
Yes, we do.
conversation. So please make sure that you tune in tomorrow for more with the Africa Family here on 28 Days and Beyond.
Where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture. We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.